Welcome to Workers' Compensation 101, an informational video about workers' compensation. This portfolio project was created by Ilianexis Guadalupe. These are the main objectives of this training. This educational video was brought to you by Pinnacle Assurance. The first thing you should know is how to navigate the video. On the top center part of the screen, you will always have the title of the section we are working with in red. This way, you can pause the video at any time if you need to. This video has 9 sections and an assessment. Before we begin, I would like to give you a little bit of background about Pinnacle Assurance. First of all, Pinnacle Assurance is Colorado's choice for workers' compensation. Since 1915, Pinnacle Assurance provides workers' compensation insurance in Colorado. And Pinnacle Assurance has 55,000 policyholders protecting 880,000 Colorado workers. So what is workers' compensation then? How would you explain to someone that has never ever heard the concept of workers' compensation? How would you explain it? If a worker-related accident happens, workers' compensation insurance will cover medical expenses and lost time wages. I think that is the most basic way of explaining what is workers' compensation. Workers' compensation law in Colorado started as a consequence of the Industrial Revolution. Many workers will be injured or even killed at their jobs, and they wouldn't have any protection, leaving families stranded. Employers were sued and forced to close businesses. So in 1915, workers' compensation law in Colorado was created to protect employees and employers. The Colorado Division of Workers' Compensation has all this information in their website. You can see their web address right here. At their main page, you can see to the right the link to forms, the statute, and rules, all available. They have a very comprehensive website with a lot of information. The Colorado Workers' Compensation statute obviously is very long. However, the original language and intent of the statute is to assure the quick and efficient delivery of disability and medical benefits to injured workers at a reasonable cost to employers. So once again, it's all about giving the opportunity to employers to have a successful business while protecting their employees. So it's a win-win. What to do when an injury happens? If it's an emergency, you need to call 911 right away so the injured worker can be taken to the closest hospital and receive the care that he or she needs. Other than that, as an employer, when you bought your workers' compensation company, you selected 2 medical providers to assist your employees in case of an injury. So you need to give the injured worker a letter with the necessary information about these 2 clinics. Even if the injured worker was in the hospital, follow-up care will be provided at one of these 2 clinics. The injured worker has the power to select one of them. We cannot stress enough the importance of reporting an injury. All work-related injuries are to be reported immediately to the manager, whether the injury is big or small. Big injuries are often reported on time because of the nature of the injury. However, small injuries are rarely reported on time. For example, a small injury can be a minor cut in a finger. For example, a construction worker. They don't report it because they put a band-aid, they don't see much of it, and that's where it ends. However, that injured worker can be diabetic. In that case, that minor cut can become a huge health issue that could have been prevented if the injury was reported on time. So it doesn't matter if the injury is big or small. The important thing is that that injury is reported to that manager immediately. Reporting an injury is easy. You can do it online in our website. You can do it over the phone, 303-361-4000, or you can download the form online and fax it at 303-361-5000. When it comes to employers' benefits and responsibilities, the first thing you want to be very comfortable with is the employer guide. You can find this guide in the website of the Colorado Division of Workers' Compensation in the employer section. Additionally, you can find posters and communications. Also, these are available at pinnacle.com under resources. One very important responsibility for employers is to provide the injured worker a letter that details 2 designated providers for them to choose one. By law, this letter must be handed as soon as possible. We recommend you ask the injured worker to sign the letter and keep a copy for your records. You can find a template of this letter at pinnacle.com in the Claims Management section. Communicating with the injured worker is crucial. First of all, because the injured worker feels cared for. As an employer, you need to show that he or she is an important asset to your company. Also, the injured worker is going through a process of recuperation. You want to support him or her as much as you can. Lastly, it is a great idea to establish a return to work program. One of our return to work specialists at Pinnacle can help you design duties that will accommodate the injured worker restrictions so they can be a presence in your company and keep getting better while feeling useful and supported. Enough of responsibilities, and now let's talk about the benefits of having workers' compensation as an employer. First, the legal protection. If an injury happens, you are legally protected. You don't have to worry about liability. Second, claims handling and medical case management. We have a whole department that will handle the claim from beginning to end. Also, our step-by-step return to work program. From establishing a program to get well cards, our return to work specialists will work with your injured worker to get them back to work as soon as possible. You don't have to worry about irregularities or fraud. If there is a suspicion, we will investigate that claim. Additionally, we have a team of safety consultants that will work with you to identify potential hazards and keep your workplace safe. These are amazing benefits, and workers' compensation, it's for you. Injured workers' benefits and responsibility. Let's start with the reporting requirements for injured workers. The statute is very clear, and it says, by law, you must notify your employer in writing within 4 working days of an injury, even if you have reported verbally. Obviously, as employers, this is not common knowledge for employees, so it's important that you tell the injured worker this requirement and that you let them know that they have 4 days to report it and that it has to be in writing. Injured worker benefits are medical, temporary disability, permanent disability, disfigurement, and death benefits. When it comes to penalties can be given to the employer, the injured worker, and the insurance carrier. The Workers' Compensation Act allows, at the discretion of an administrative law judge, to assign penalties to the insurance carrier up to $500 per day for each offense. This can include late reporting by Pinnacle Assurance to the Division of Workers' Compensation. The injured worker must report the injury to his employer within 4 days of the occurrence, as we mentioned before. Failure to report in a timely manner may result in a penalty to up to 1 day of compensation for each day of failure to report. Why is it important to investigate an accident? So as an employer, once you've had an injury, it's important to look for the root cause. What caused that accident? And there are certain steps that you need to follow in order to identify the reason behind that accident. There's a process that is called root cause analysis, and it's basically based on the most common questions like what, how, when, and why. The first step of the process is data collection. Then you have to do event charting, root cause analysis, then root cause identification, and finally a recommendation. Don't worry, because we're going to go through each step and discuss it thoroughly. When it comes to data collection, it's basically gathering all the information that is available regarding the accident or the injury. For example, interviews. Were there any witnesses? Anybody saw what happened? Injured worker statements. The injured worker needs to give you a written statement of what happened or their version of how that injury happened. Photographs, videos. Equipment specs and equipment manuals. Obviously, if an injured worker got hit by a truck or was working with some tools, that is an opportunity to review that equipment or those tools and look at their specs and their manuals to see if they were working properly. Additionally, safety rules. What kind of safety rules do you have in place? Was there a violation of any safety rule? And finally, training records. How have you trained your employees about safety? Monthly meetings, weekly meetings, morning meetings, although that information is very important and to have it up front. Now that you have all your data together, it is ideal for this information to be analyzed. In a sequence diagram, you can almost visualize the accident, and by organizing your facts this way, you may uncover needs for additional data collection. Root cause analysis can be challenging. First of all, because accidents are complex. One accident can have 10 contributing factors. Most accidents are preventable by avoiding one or more contributing factors. And that's why an investigation determines causes and methods for removing these hazards. Every accident is different, so the cause of that accident can be very unique. However, there is a list of contributing factors that have been proven to be the cause of many workplace-related accidents. For example, lack of awareness, lack of safe work practices, lack of adherence, enforcement to safe work practices, improper or inadequate equipment materials, and lastly, improper or inadequate design. The goal of identifying the root cause is that it answers the reason, the why the accident happened. We are looking for solutions now. Recommendations identify the corrective action for each cause. Ensure the corrective action is viable by answering the following questions. Will the corrective action prevent recurrence? Is the corrective action feasible? Is the corrective action economical? Does the corrective action introduces new hazards or risks? Because this recommendation or this solution is permanent, all these considerations need to be put in place. Do not forget witnesses. Witnesses are paramount for any investigation. Make sure that if you have more than one witness, that you interview them separately. You want to verify versions. Now we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about a yearly audit. As a workers' compensation policy holder, every year you have to do an audit. Now, the word audit itself, it's scary. So why an audit? Why do we have to go through this process? It's very simple. To verify policy information. What the insurance company wants to do is to actually obtain the actual payroll for the policy period. As you may know, the insurance company goes off an estimate every year. So we want to compare the estimate with the actual payroll. If the estimate was higher than the actual payroll, then Pinnacle Assurance will give the policyholder a refund. If the estimate was lower than the actual payroll, then the policyholder will owe an amount for the audit. As a policyholder, you should have your records organized. For the audit, you need to submit several documents. Examples of the documents that are going to be required for the yearly audit are employee records, unemployment insurance tax reports, 941s or 943s, federal tax returns, whichever you submit, payroll records for the audit period, subcontractors, independent contractors, any money that goes out to an employee or a temporary employee. It's important for the audit and it will be considered in the report. Congratulations! You have completed 9 sections of vital information for a policyholder in workers' compensation. Now let's have a summary of each section and let's just resume what are the most important facts of that section. Section number 1. Workers' compensation, it's an insurance created to protect employers and their employees. Regarding workers' compensation law, Colorado workers' compensation law talks about providing quick and efficient benefits to injured workers at a reasonable cost to employers. What to do when an injury happens? When an injury happens, if it's an emergency, you call 911. If it's not an emergency, follow-up care will be provided by submitting and giving the injured worker those 2 selected medical providers, which they're going to select one to receive their care. Within this section of employer benefits and responsibilities, we learned that employers' benefits are, for example, claim management and legal protection, and that reporting an injury and communicating with the injured worker is definitely a priority. Within the injured workers and responsibilities and benefits section, we learned about injured workers' responsibilities to report the injury on time and in writing, and some of their benefits are medical and, for instance, lost time wages. 6. In the process of investigating an accident, this investigation can support the claim and provide tools to prevent future accidents. And lastly, the yearly audit. The yearly audit is part of the policy process. The purpose of the audit is to corroborate payroll information, as you may already know. Documentation is needed, so keep payroll records handy. Now let's let's do some exercises to check for understanding. Workers' compensation is A, an insurance that covers my property. B, an insurance to protect my assets. C, an insurance to protect me and my employees. And D, an insurance to cover general losses. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think. And if you thought of C, you are correct. As an employer and workers' compensation policyholder, I have the benefit of getting discounts at various stores. B, legal protection and claim handling. C, legal protection and catch bonuses. D, claim handling and free pre-screenings. Few seconds to think. And if you've thought of B, you are correct. Injured workers can go to any clinic as long as it is close to their residence. A, is true, or B, is it false? I'll give you a few seconds. If you thought false, you are correct. Remember that you as an employer, you are the one that select those two clinics, and they can only pick one of your selections. In case of an injury, I need to provide the injured worker with a letter that details in writing my designated medical providers. True or false? If you've thought of true, you are correct. And remember, you can find a template of this letter in pinnacle.com under the claims management section. Part of the root cause analysis when investigating an injury is data collection and root cause identification. B, solutions and practicing. C, evaluating injured workers' performance. And D, setting safety rules. Give you a few seconds. And if you've thought of A, data collection and root cause identification, you are correct. Penalties are only given to employers for not reporting on time. A, true. B, false. I'm going to give you a few seconds. And if you thought of B, false, that is correct. Remember, penalties can be given to employers, employees, and even the insurance carrier. In Colorado, workers' compensation law started in what year? A, 1912. B, 1925. C, 1935. D, 1915. Few seconds for you to pick one. And if you answer D, 1915, you are correct. For my yearly audit, I need to submit how much my business made in profit. If you're thinking that the answer is false, yes, it's B. You are correct. Remember, for the yearly audit, the only thing that you need to worry about and submit paperwork about, it's your payroll, how much you paid your employees. When an emergency injury happens, I should direct my employee to one of my designated providers. True or false? Think about it. If you're thinking that is false, you are correct. It is B, false. Remember, in the case of an emergency, please call 911 and direct the employee to go to the emergency room as soon as possible. Designated providers are only for follow-up care or for minor injuries. They do not have emergency care. If there is more than one blank you should interview them individually to corroborate versions. A. Owner. B. Claims representative. C. Subcontractors. Or D. Witness. If you're thinking that it's D, witness, you are correct. Definitely, if there is more than one witness, you don't want to interview them together because they might influence each other with their versions. You should interview them individually so you can get the most accurate information. Thank you for being part of this Workers' Compensation 101 video. We hope you have gained enough knowledge about workers' compensation benefits and responsibilities as employers and for employees, how to investigate an injury, and also learned about your yearly audit. Thank you so much for watching.